Hey there! What's up guys, welcome to the channel, or welcome back if you're a regular viewer. So today we're talking Junji Ito. So Junji Ito is a mangaka who is sort of synonymous with horror manga. If you want to get into like some scary stuff,
it's spooky,
in your manga collection, your comic collection, graphic novels, whatever the hell you want to call it, it's all comics. Today I wanted to look at some Junji Ito, and I thought it might be a fun idea if I went ahead and read every single thing he's ever made, at least everything that's been translated to English and is available to me. Yeah, I thought it might be a fun little video to go through his catalog, just review it, see if this guy's really the master of horror that everybody puts him up on a pedestal as, because I feel like he might be a little overhyped. I don't know, maybe. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes people hype things up and then when you get to read it, you know, it's like, oh, it's not that great. This video is going to take quite some time. My hair is probably going to go through phases because I'm definitely going to get a haircut within the process of filming this. And yeah, we'll just come in and out with every single volume, or it'll be a fun video. It'll be a fun, chill time, you know, just get some tea, you know, put some tea on. Nice cozy afternoon. That's going to be all for intro, John. I'll see you later. Alright guys, so I just finished Smash. This is my first Junji Ito book. This was a collection of short stories, and it was okay. I don't know. Maybe I should have went for one of his bigger hits, I guess you could call it first, but I thought it was okay. This is a collection of short stories. In it has Blood-Sucking Darkness, Ghost of Primetime, Roar, Earthbound, Death Road Doorbell, The Mystery of the Haunted House, The Mystery of the Haunted House Soichi's version, Soichi's Beloved Pet, In Mirror Valley, I Don't Want to Be a Ghost, Library Vision, Splendid Shadow Song, and Smashed, which is the title of the book. So I guess that's like the title track of the album, right? I've noticed in reading this that Junji Ito likes to keep everything confined to panels. He doesn't like to break the panels or really experiment with layout. I mean, it's sort of like a standard sort of layout, kind of old school. I mean, I think some of these are actually older stories that haven't been translated to English since before this came out, but, you know, sort of just like panel, panel, panel. Nothing really, like, interesting in terms of, like, changing up the design, you know, sort of like some other artists like to do, you know, they crazy shaped panels, breaking the panels, things overlap. Just sort of everything seems to be confined to the panels. I've noticed he also likes to emphasize the page turn, right? So I guess that helps build suspense when you're reading the story, is that, like, you know something crazy is going to be on the next page, and then you turn the page and you see something like this. Yeah, I thought it was alright. Out of all of these, I think my favorite story was probably the library one. What was it called? Library Vision, which is about a guy that has, like, this giant library in his home, and eventually it drives him to madness. I thought that one was probably my favorite. It was probably the longest one in the book too, so that's probably why. Because I had time to, like, kind of develop the characters a little bit. Because these are all short stories, and I feel like short stories don't really translate to comics that well. Because, like, they move so quick in comic book form. You know, like, here are the characters, here's the premise, let's go. I understand with short stories you gotta get things going a bit faster, but I feel like they're more enjoyable in, like, prose fiction. So he uses a lot of heavy blacks, a lot of hatching too. Not cross-hatching, just hatching. So that's sort of when you put a series of lines, like, next to each other to create shading, but cross-hatching is when you, like, overlay a series of lines on top of another one, sort of to create darker shadows. He uses that with his heavy blacks. Not a lot of screen tones. A lot of these manga artists, they use screen tones a lot. Junji Ito seems to keep things pretty much black and white, pretty much almost the whole time. I noticed that in every panel, almost, he draws a background, which is kind of crazy. Because that's kind of a bit of a cheat code if you want to get your story moving a little bit faster, is you don't have to draw the background for every single panel. But he does, and they're pretty, like, immaculately drawn. I don't know what it is about manga backgrounds and, like, their cleanness. See how cleanly drawn some of these backgrounds are? Yeah, his backgrounds are extremely clean, which I find quite fascinating. He's probably working traditionally. I'm sure, I think these stories are older, and they've just recently been localized in this, which I believe this said is published in 5th printing 2021, 1st printing 2019. So This didn't come over here, all these stories in English in a format that you could buy until 2019, so I don't know what's new and what's old. But I did enjoy it. Some of these stories were just interesting ideas. I don't know, I feel like there wasn't that much of like character development, other than library vision, which is probably why I like that one so much, because there was like actual like depth to the characters in that. There was also a couple of stories with this character Soichi, which is a recurring character apparently in Junji Ito's stories. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I think my top 3 stories, Library Vision. Smashed was actually a really interesting story. It was about these people that have this like special nectar from South America that's like so delicious, but if somebody sees them eating it, they get smashed. Which is a bizarre concept. I don't know. That was kind of Don't Want to Be a Ghost is a pretty cool story. That was about a girl that ate ghosts. I don't know, some of these plot points are a little convoluted, but yeah, the girl ate ghosts and like she haunted this one dude because he had a lot of spirits around him or some shit. I don't know. Earthbound was a really creepy story, actually. I really liked Earthbound. So Earthbound was a story about people just suddenly stiffening up. They just like strike a pose in a certain area and they can't be moved. And then like eventually they like harden and collapse. Anyway, next up, we got a little story called Uzumaki? I don't know. I think I've heard of this one, maybe. This is actually his most famous work. I probably should have started with this one, but I don't know. I felt like reading short stories first. I like short stories by horror writers before I get into them. So, because those are usually where they have the most unique ideas. But yeah, this is apparently about like a town infested with spirals. I don't know. I'm going to give it a read and see if this is the classic that everybody says it is, or if this is just like, you know, overhyped.
Whoa. This was something else, man. So, Uzumaki. This was my second Junji Ito story. This one is a full-length sort of graphic novel. I believe it's actually available in like 3 manga volumes if you're going to collect it like that, but we have the Omnibus Collected Edition 3-in-1, whatever you want to call it here. Also, I really like what they did with the spines on this one, Tomie and Gyo. They got a little symbol around the main idea of what the story's about. So this one was about a young couple, a high school couple that live in a small town that has been infested with spirals. Very bizarre concept at first. Basically, everywhere you look, there's spirals in the town, and it basically drives the people into madness. This is really hard to explain. I think this is one of those things that it's easier if you actually just go ahead and read it. This is supposed to be getting an anime adaptation, but it's been in production hell since 2019 due to the pandemic and everything, but I'm sure there's other stuff going on with the studio that was supposed to do the anime. I've actually seen some clips from the trailer. Looks like they're trying to keep it black and white to keep it true to the look of the original manga, which looks kind of cool. Man, this is so weird. This weird is the best way to describe this story, but it's also kind of scary. I felt the tension rising the further in I got. Now, one thing that kind of bothered me about this is the main character, actually. So the main character, we follow the girl and her boyfriend, but mostly the girl. And the boyfriend is pretty smart. He's a smart guy. And he realizes that the town's going to shit and getting infected with spirals, and he keeps trying to convince her to leave town. What was his name? Shuichi? Yeah, Shuichi. Not to be confused with the other guy, Shoichi. This is Shuichi. Like on your foot. Kirie was the girl's name. So Shuichi keeps trying to convince her to leave town, but she's like, why would I want to leave town even though these horrible things keep happening? Like, bitch, run! That's kind of one thing that bothers me about some horror stories, is that like the characters are really stupid in some regards. And this one, I kind of struggles with that same thing. I get it that you're trying to, you know, build up the horror and the tension, you know, and the fear and all that, but I don't know, sometimes I'm just like, do you not have eyes? Do you not see what's happening? Get the fuck out of there. But Yeah, this was really good. I couldn't put this down. I read this in like one sitting. Yeah, this was outstanding. And sometimes when you turn the page, you never know what's going to come next. I think Ito took the whole idea of the spiral and just took it like, how do I make something so simple, scary, in as many ways as possible? Yeah, this was something. I bet he was probably talking to his editor or his assistant or whatever. He's like, bet you I can't make a scary story about spirals. And the other guy's probably like, spirals? Really, dude? Like, the shape? Yeah, okay, good luck, buddy. And, yeah, he made a classic. But, yeah, I'm a fan. Moving forward, I think I'm going to start ranking these, so put it over here. We'll, put Uzumaki at the top, Smashed at the bottom, because we only read 2 so far. But anyway, next up, moving forward, I would recommend Uzumaki. Actually, it's his first Junji Ito book. Probably not one of his short stories. Next up, we got Gyo. Alright? The death stench creeps. I don't know what that means. The floating smell of death hangs over the island. What is it? A strange legged fish appears on the sea. So begins Tadashi and Kaori's spiral into the horror and stench of the sea. Here is the creepiest masterpiece of horror manga ever from the creator of Uzumaki, Junji Ito. Hold your breath until all is revealed. I don't know, this has quite a few pages. I think if I held my breath that long, I would probably pass out.
So I just finished reading Gyo, and wow, that was a bit of a creepy idea going on there. So, premise of Gyo follows a couple. Again, seems that Junji Ito likes to make horror revolving around couples. One Kaori, or Kaori, not sure how you pronounce that name, and Tadashi. And there's this overwhelming smell that's coming out of the ocean, which turns out to be a bunch of fish that are being controlled by these machines that are terrorizing the people of Japan. Yeah, this was alright. You know, this is an Uzumaki, and to be honest, I think a couple of the short stories I read by him were a bit better. The artwork is definitely Ito doing Ito. I don't really... His art style has a tendency to stand out against the sea of manga. You know what I mean? When I say, like, manga style, you could sometimes pick up one manga and another one drawn in different times by different people and be like, yeah, it's sort of the standard style. Junji Ito's artwork has a tendency to stand out, especially in his creatures and his double page spreads. A lot of hatching, a lot of line work, really beautiful rendering of environments. I have to repeat what I said earlier, is that I'm amazed that he makes backgrounds for like every single panel. This one was alright, I think mostly because I hated the girl in the story, Kaori. She was so goddamn annoying. And if you did read the story, you know what happens to her, and to be honest, while it should have been a shocking moment, I was kind of like, yeah, that's satisfying. There was a certain point where a shark with legs assaulted the house that they were staying in, and she was like, why are you running away? Go fight it. And Tadashi was like, I'm not gonna fight a shark. Are you stupid? I think the premise was really good, especially the whole idea of biological war and government manufactured viruses. Overall, I thought this story is pretty good, even though I wasn't really rooting for the couple. The main dude, like, I was like, alright, you know, do what you can to survive. And the girl, I'm like, oh my god, will you just kill this bitch already? She was so annoying. However, this includes two bonus stories, this version of Gyo. I'm not sure if you can get the single volume manga. This includes, let's see, The Sad Tale of the Principal Post and The Enigma of Amagara Fault. Now, the Principal Post one, I'm just like, I mean, alright, that's creepy and all, but the Amagara Fault story, I only just finished reading this. That overshadowed the entirety of this entire story. That shit is creepy, man. Let me explain that one a little bit. So, basically, a fault happened, you know, an earthquake, fault lines, tectonic plates. I don't know. I didn't pay attention in earth science. Who wants to pay attention to fucking rocks? Creates holes in this mountain, and people are drawn to it because they think the holes in there are basically outlines of their silhouettes. And the people go there and they go into their holes and suffer horrible deaths. That's not really a spoiler. It's a very short story. But that one's kind of freaky, man. That's kind of one of those, like, ideas. Yeah, I don't know. That one was creepy as hell. I think that story alone is worth buying this book. I'm going to put this above Smash, but below Uzumaki. I think Uzumaki's sort of the standard. But, yeah, it was a bit of a shorter read. A bit of a shorter book. Again, I really like what they did with the spines. You got a little blood splatter on the end there. Really should have tried to do the gas. But, anyway, next up, we got the last of the unholy trinity, if you will. We got Tomie, which is the perfect name for this because this one's a tome. Seriously, look at the size of this boy. That's a big chungus right there. That's a chunky boy. So it's going to be a while before I get to the review of this, but this is one I'm going to read next. I'll probably have less hair by then. And, yeah, let's read the synopsis. Murdered again and again. One girl always comes back for more. Tomie Tomie Kawakami is a femme fatale with long black hair and a beauty mark just under her left eye. She can seduce nearly any man and drive them to murder as well, even though the victim is often Tomie herself. While one lover seeks to keep her for himself, another grows terrified of the immortal succubus. But soon they realize that no matter how many times they kill her, the world will never be free of Tomie. Ooh, spooky. Okay, so kind of sounds like his take on the whole succubus thing. The premise of like a supernatural entity just coming back forever, that's been done before, but I guess we'll see Ito's take on this. You know, this is, I believe this was like his first story? 2011. Okay, maybe not. Maybe this was like one of his first characters, one of his first short stories. I don't know, we're going to take a look at that. I'll edit in some research if I have to. But yeah, we'll give it a read. And I'm going to try to get the Amigara Fault story out of my head in the meantime. So I finished Tomie a couple days ago. And this is one of the stories I had to kind of sit on. Do you ever read one of those stories, or watch a movie, or play a game, or anything with some kind of narrative in it, and just kind of got to sit on it for a little bit, just to kind of process it? So Tomie is a story about a girl named Tomie that gets murdered a lot and always comes back. Now, the first chapter in this is a bit rough in the pretty much all around, but that's because it was actually Junji Ito's first story ever published ever, which is kind of crazy that became one of his more iconic works. You know, usually the first one that you put out isn't really usually the first one you put out really isn't the iconic one, but this was something. This was an interesting story. Like I said, I just had to sit on it for a little while. Now, the art in the first chapter is a little bit rough, but again, it was his first story ever. And then basically everything after the first chapter is just sort of him writing a follow-up to that story. Also, in the back, I found out that he was originally a dental technician before he became a mangaka, which makes sense, because you gotta be a bit of a sick fuck to be a dentist. Tomie is not a good person. She's kind of built off the archetype of the sort of like jealous, manipulative type of woman. You know what I mean, gentlemen. And she has a habit of seducing men. It's sort of like a power she has almost, and getting them to do horrible things for her. And eventually, by the end of it, she ends up getting killed by the men she manipulated. Now, the thing about this story is, well, at once you think, like, Tomie's, like, a horrible creature that does horrible things. It kind of makes you think, like, well, who's really the monster here? Is it her, or is it these men that do all these horrible things for her? You know what I mean? I think this story is about So I think the whole time I was kind of questioning who was really the victim in this story, because Tomie gets murdered basically in every chapter, but she comes back because she's like some kind of supernatural entity. But at the same time, like, the more you read into it, the more I think about it, the more, like, you know, on one hand, like, yeah, she did do horrible things to these men, but did that justify them fucking murdering her? I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, I think it's interesting that her supernatural ability of seduction doesn't work every time, because there are a few chapters where she tries to seduce these men and they not having any of that shit, you know, going pure Sigma on her. But the majority of them do her bidding, and it's kind of interesting to think that maybe she doesn't have any supernatural powers at all. Maybe Tomie is just sort of a metaphor for the evil nature of men's hearts, you know? And how they'd be willing to do anything to get what they want on a subconscious, primitive, like, vestigial lizard brain level, you know what I mean? There's always going to be that little bit of the caveman buried deep within our brains back there, you know what I mean? This, at first I'm like, okay, that's an interesting concept. It's kind of spooky, but I think it's kind of been done before. The unkillable entity, a manipulative, like, succubus kind of thing, right? But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, wait, was he trying to say something else in this one? You know, this is a tough one to review, but I do keep thinking about it. I think the stories that are really good are the ones that you keep thinking about. You know what I mean? Like I like the ones that just kind of stick around and, like, keep thinking back, like, man, that was an interesting work of art. That made me think things. You know what I mean? Like stories like Neon Genesis Evangelion. I got the first manga here. It's pretty much like 1-to-1 from the anime. I don't know. I didn't read the later volumes because while the art was good, I just didn't really want to continue the manga. But yeah, it's sort of like this kind of story where it's sort of everybody that's watched this probably remembers this. You probably remember all that shit that happened at the end of Evangelion, right? Those are the stories that really resonate with me. The ones that you kind of keep thinking back on. And Tomie is one of those stories that I'm not really sure how I can interpret this. I'm not sure if the point was like, well, Tomie is not really the victim here. It's the horror that lurks in men's heart. Or at the same time, is she doing this to get herself in these situations? I don't know. This was a weird one. This one was weird. You know, that's why I would classify this one under. This one I would classify as weird, while Uzumaki was, like, disturbing, like, creepy. This was weird, you know? I was like, okay, I feel like this is sort of a standard kind of, like, succubus horror story, but it's done in a way that makes you stop and think, you know? I don't know. Anyway, moving right along, we got Dissolving Classroom. Standard manga volume. Wow, look at that. Dissolving Classroom. I know, just by the cover, it looks like it might be kind of a funny story. I don't know. Sometimes horror can be funny. Yeah, I'm gonna check this one out next. But before I move on, right now, I'm gonna rank Tomie right below Uzumaki, above Gyo, right? Because, while I think the story, Amagara Fault, is worth buying Gyo for, I don't think overall that Gyo is a better book than Tomie, so I'm going to put Tomie right underneath Uzumaki. And yeah, we're going to check out Dissolving Classroom. This looks like a quick read. New book smell. And yeah, we're going to give it a go. So I just finished Dissolving Classroom just a while ago, and I am never going to watch an apology video ever again. So, Dissolving Classroom's about these two siblings, Yuma and Chizumi, and basically this guy has a tendency to profusely apologize to everybody all the time, but due to some things he did in the past that I'm not going to spoil actually, it causes people's brains to melt. And this one kind of encourages it. This story, at first it was just kind of like a spooky, edgy, creepy story, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought maybe this is Junji Ito's commentary on apology culture. You know what I mean? Because if you looked in the back, this was published in 2015? Yeah, 2015 in Japan. 2017 it looks like when I got over here, which, that's weird. Usually they publish them faster than that. I guess that was kind of around when anime was just starting to go mainstream. But anyway, yeah, again, the art, exceptional. Like, Ito doing Ito. His artwork's always super clean. It always surprises me that every panel has a background in it. Honestly, I've never once thought his art was, like, not good, except maybe the first chapter of Tomie, but that was literally the first thing he did. Other than that, like, Ito's artwork just top-notch, It's good. It's good. Anyway, so I think this story might have been more of a political commentary the more I think about it, on how everybody feels the need to apologize for anything they've ever done. Even minor things that just, like, really, you don't need to apologize for that. That's not really that big of a deal. I think that's what this story is about, yeah, I think the consequences of demanding apologies are plain to see in this story. I don't know. This is another one I gotta stop and think about. I feel like Ito stories are kind of like that usually. Like about 99% of the time. Even going back to something like Uzumaki or Gyo, which really didn't feel like it had a deeper meaning, but the more I think about it, like, maybe there was something else there, Anyway, it was good. It was a quick read, wasn't, like, mind-blowing. I wouldn't say it was as good as Uzumaki or Tomie. Alright, I'm going to put this above Gyo. This is going to be above Gyo and under Tomie. I think that's where my chart is now. But yeah, it was a fun read, quick read. I'd recommend it. I don't want to spoil it because, like, about the end of the first chapter, you find out, like, why these people are melting, and yeah, it's kind of interesting. Then when you get to the end, you're like, oh no, oh no. Yeah, I think the moral of the story is, like, stop apologizing. Let people just be themselves. Anyway, moving right along. So up next we got Censor, which I believe is another... Censor, which I believe is another short story collection. Is it? Is it a short story collection or is it one story? I don't know. We'll find out. It's got this really cool book jacket. Yeah, it's like embossed here. Alright? Let me just focus that a little bit better. Really, really cool book jacket. The only problem is the like paper material that it's made out of. It's like craft paper. Oh hey, how you doing? It's like craft paper, so it's like really easy to bend, to get fragmented. But look at the inside, huh? Isn't that cool? That's the inside of the book jacket. That, like, almost nobody but me is probably gonna notice. But yeah. Oh, she's got clothes on, right? Okay. Yeah, really cool. Definitely Ito. Notice Ito draws hair in a very unique kind of way, especially on his female characters. See that? See how the lines are so, like, meticulous and, like, smooth? But yeah, really cool book jacket. This is what the inside of the book looks like. Alright. I'm gonna give it a read, and, on to the next one. That's how the video goes. Alright. That's it for Dissolving Classroom. On to Censor. I completed Censor, and this one was weird, man. I think this is Ito's take on a cult story. Ooh, look at that. Just stripped the book. Ooh, look at that. Bare book. Bare hardcover. Yeah, so Censor was something. I've been saying that about every book, haven't I? Ah, man, how do I talk about this one? So I literally just finished this. Like, I just finished the last page. And I think this is his take on sort of a cult sort of story. But there's also some weird, like, sci-fi elements to it. So there's, like, Mount Sengoku, which I believe is a real volcano in Japan. Apparently there's this thing called volcanic hair, that after a volcano erupts, like, these, like, fibers in the air that are almost hair-like floating there, but they're made out of the stuff that came out of a volcano. So, this woman, Kyoko Byakuya, finds out that there's sort of this, small village of people that sort of pray to the volcano and the hair that flows out of it. It's like this beautiful golden hair, and at a certain point her hair is replaced by the volcanic hair, this like beautiful golden hair that's like mystifying. You know, the more I think about this one, the less it makes sense. I think this one, I think Ito just didn't give a fuck. He's like, you know what, I'm just gonna see where the characters go. And I read the afterword in this, and that's pretty much what he said, was that the characters were just kind of going off and doing whatever they wanted. You know, I kind of get that when you're writing, as somebody that has written as well before. You know, sometimes the characters just kind of go off and do things that, like, you didn't see happening. This is really hard to explain. There's like a cult, and there's a volcano, and there's like outer space and cosmic entities, and there's this dude's head like becoming a neuron network of interconnected intergalactic stars. This one's bizarre. This one really cranks up the weirdness. I don't know, man. There's just, the back's got two sentences. Did she wander in, or was she drawn in? I mean, that's a good question. I don't really know what you're asking, who about where. This one, I would classify this under surrealist horror, because while there was some narrative structure for sure, and like, you know, the characters did kind of go through a journey, a lot of the stuff that happened in this was very bizarre. There was this whole subplot about these weird insects that would jump underneath your feet. They call them self-deletion bugs, because we can't say the proper word, because YouTube auto-flags videos with that word on it, even though it's a huge problem in the world and it keeps getting worse. We can't even say the word. But I digress, back to fiction. Yeah, there was that weird subplot about these self-deletion bugs, and yeah, I don't really know what that was all about. This definitely feels more of that, like, I guess, cosmic Lovecraftian horror that's like, it's just supposed to make you go like, what? Like, I don't know what's going on, but it's creepy, that's for sure. I liked it. The art was really good. Like, some of the images in here were a little bit like, whoa, I don't want to keep that in my brain. Or maybe I do, I don't know. Depends how you look at it. The first chapter of this story looked like really clean, to the point where I think he might have worked digitally on that first chapter. I don't know, something about the art style in chapter 1 versus the rest of it looked more digital than the rest. I'm not sure if he ever went digital or if he's still a pure traditionalist, but yeah, the first chapter definitely looked pure, like it was drawn digitally to me. What year was this? This was 2019. Okay, so yeah, this was really recent. This was only a couple years ago. So yeah, maybe he did work digitally, but yeah, I don't really know about this one. The more I think about it, the less it makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I liked it, but at the same time, I'm like, wait, what the fuck is going on? You know, it's like, oh, she becomes a goddess, and then like she activates her sensors, and then she's like part of everybody else, and the hair is magical, and like there's the cosmic library, and like I feel like there's too much in a story this short. You know what I mean? I don't know. I enjoyed it though. It was a fun ride, even though sometimes I'm just like, what's going on? I would probably put this, honestly, I think I'm going to put it like right above Smashed. So far the worst story that I read was his short story collection, Smashed. Which, to be honest, that's sort of judging that as a whole book compared to these other ones as books, you know? So that's probably why Smash is at the bottom, because, you know, there were some weaker stories in that one. But yeah, I'm going to put this right above Smash. I don't know, I still got to process this a little bit more. But yeah, like I said, it was still a fun ride. Anyway, as we resume our Edo-verse exploration, we're going to move on to Remina, which an unknown planet emerges from inside a wormhole. Oh, I guess we're going to outer space yet again. Alright. I will say one more thing about censor, though. This book is pretty... Fuck. This book is pretty new, so it smells amazing. Like I was saying, Dissolving Classroom smell good. Out of all the books, this one smells the best. Nothing like a new book smell, man. I'm gonna go pick up that light. If I put it this way. Ooh, spooky. Spooky. Ooh. Anyway, we're gonna move on. Okay, so I finished Remina, this one, a little while ago, a couple days ago. And I just needed some time to mentally process this. So, this is Junji Ito's apocalypse story. You know, pretty much any established, like, well-known figure in the horror genre, be it movies, games, books, whatever, has to do an apocalypse story at some point. And this is his. Now, this one is kind of cool, because it's set in the future. Right? And like in the year 20XX, everybody's favorite year. But it's kind of interesting to see his take on what looks like sort of a near future. It doesn't really look like a distant future. There's no like screens that pop up in front of your face, but there's like cool like hover cars and like personal air scooters and stuff like that. I kind of wanted to see a little bit more of that in the story, but that's not really what it's about. It's about a planet. So premise of the book is astrophysicist thinks there's a wormhole in a certain part of the galaxy. Boom, planet comes out of that wormhole, right? And he's been proven right, so he gets to claim that planet as his discovery because he said there's going to be something coming out of that wormhole one day, and then boom, planet comes out of a wormhole, right? And he names it as, you know, to be expected, after his daughter, right? He's a scientist, he loves science, he loves his daughter. Why not name the planet after her? Remina, right? So his daughter's name is Remina, the name of this planet is Remina. So the scientists start monitoring this new planet because, like, hey, what is it? We gotta take a look at this, we gotta investigate. And turns out it's on a crash course for planet Earth, right? And as soon as that information gets out to the public, everybody decides that, you know what, that planet's coming to us because of Remina, the guy's daughter, is still alive. We gotta kill her. Now, there's also this subplot in the beginning of the story where Remina, the person, the girl, right, the daughter, she kind of becomes a bit of a star, right? She's a celebrity. Everybody's like, oh, Remina. She kind of becomes, what they call that in Japan, an idol. You know, if you guys are familiar with idol culture. I'm not really into that stuff, you know. The only idols I know are Haruka and T-Set from the Yakuza series. Man, I hated those bitches in T-Set. But yeah, so Remina becomes kind of like an idol. Planet comes into a crash course with Earth. Everybody turns on her, and they literally crucify her. That's not a spoiler. That's literally the first page. It starts with the flash forward. So yeah, but you know, are they successful or not? I don't know. You got to read the book. I try not to spoil these when I talk about them. This has been a bit to process, because it seems like it was his sort of take on celebrity, rather than this apocalyptic horror, like, oh, there's a giant planet coming for you, which has a tongue, by the way. The planet has a tongue. I don't think I've ever seen anybody draw tongues quite like Junji Ito does. Like, they're kind of disgusting, bro. Like, chill, bro. But I think it's how quickly certain circumstances will make people just turn on one another. Just this sort of events of mass hysteria propagated by media. Where have I heard this recently? Anyway, yeah, I think that's what this story was really about, is how we prop these people up on a pedestal, and like one mistake that they may not have even been involved in, and all of a sudden we want to crucify them, metaphorically, or in this case literally. And yeah, I think that was the message behind the story, because I feel like Junji Ito's stories have like a deeper meaning most of the time. I don't know, I think sometimes he's just trying to make some like spooky, creepy stuff, but it seems from, let's see, Tomie, Dissolving Classroom, some of the stories in Smashed, it seems like there's something else he's trying to say at the same time, and I find that kind of fascinating, or maybe I'm just reading too much into it. I don't know, man. This book, the actual book, physical book, it's got like, the printing is like really nice. It's like a really nice smooth surface. I don't know if you guys could see that. Let me adjust the focus. Right? It's got like this nice glossy feel. I wish you guys could rub it. But like the spine is made out of like, I'm not sure what that material is, but it's not glossy. I don't know. It's really nice printing. Some cool artwork on the inside and the panels. There's the planet that I'm talking about. You see how the planet has a mouth and a tongue? Yeah, that's a... Yeah, so I needed a bit of time to process Remina, and I'm still thinking about it. I don't know. I feel like a lot of Junji Ito stories have like a lasting impression that kind of make you keep thinking about it. Like, I'm still thinking about Tomie. That story hit different, man. And not like in the, like, wow, that really made me reflect on my own life. That made more in the, like, what the fuck did I just read kind of way. You know what I mean? I liked it a lot. The art was, you know, Ito doing Ito. Like, I can't complain. His art is good. Like, you know a Junji Ito when you see a Junji Ito, you know? He's got, like, a really unique style that stands out against, like, all the other manga out there. Oh, yeah. At a certain point, the planet starts spinning, like, the planet Earth starts spinning, like, super fast, and then everybody's flying through the sky. It's honestly kind of comical, now that I think about it. But yeah, this was something. They were all something. And at a certain point, they go to planet Remina because the Earth's going to be destroyed. So they're like, alright, we got spaceships, it's the future. Let's get on the planet. And yeah, it's a freaking hellscape. Very well paced, pretty good written characters. I like the way the story unfolded. But yeah, I might have to give this a reread. But as for now, I think I'm going to put it... I think this might be tied with Dissolving Classroom, because I really like Dissolving Classroom a lot. Because... that one, I could see the subtext from a mile away about the whole apology culture thing. But this one, I gotta, like, think about it more, you know? I think I'm gonna put this right underneath Dissolving Classroom. I might actually reread this one, though, because I remember I was really tired when I read this. But like I was so close to the end, I'm like, alright, just force myself to finish this, you know, instead of falling asleep here. I don't know. It was good. It's good. I can't say his work's bad. It's all good. It's all good. You know, and it's red, and I like the color red, okay? That's a really cool cover, though. If you guys, let me just zoom in one more time. I really like the cover on this one. Got that creepy, there's the planet, and there's like Tokyo, or whatever big city in Japan. I got a couple. It's not just Tokyo. Anyway, next on the agenda, we got Fragments of Horror. I like that. That sort of looks like his take on Edvard Munch, you know, the painting. Yeah, these are short stories. Okay, so no, we got another short story collection, but look at this book jacket. I don't know if you could see this on camera. I don't know if I'm showing it the right way. But there's like a printing, like some kind of material where they got like different graphics on there. Man, it's hard to show. You can kind of see it. You see that? That's kind of cool. It's a cool jacket. Anyway, we'll take a look. So I finished Fragments of Horror, and it was okay. I think for a short story collection, it was okay, you know. It didn't really blow me away. There weren't really too many stories that really just hit. Like, In Smash, there were a couple stories that actually like kind of stayed with me a little bit, and I think Junji Ito is actually quite good at doing something that I consider really hard, which is a short story in a graphic novel format, or comic book, manga, manhwa, whatever you know, the pictures and the words format. And yeah, it was alright. Don't blow me away. Just for you people that may not have heard of this one, the stories in this collection are Futon, Wooden Spirit, Tomie a Red Turtleneck, Gentle Goodbye, Dissection Chan, Blackbird, Megami Nanakuse, Whispering Woman, and that's it. Out of all of these, I think the couple that stood out the most were Dissection Chan and probably Blackbird. I don't even remember what Megami Nanasuke is about. What the hell is that about? I can barely remember. Oh, that was the writer. Okay. Yeah, so those are the two that really stood out to me. Dissection Chan is about a woman that fetishizes being dissected. Yeah. Which, you know, I mean, I ain't no kink shamer. You know what I mean? I want girls to step on me. But, yeah, that's a little concerning. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one, but it was a little, like, unsettling. You know what I mean? It wasn't, like, scary. It was kind of creepy, which I think is the better format to work horror in. You know what I mean? You could have, like, oh, there's a scary big guy with a knife after you. Oh, spooky. But I feel like the more, like, psychologically, like, understated kind of horror is the one that hits more. Yeah, I don't know. It was alright. And Blackbird was about a guy that... Oh, how do I explain Blackbird? Alright, it's about a guy in the woods that hurt his leg, and this giant bird creature woman started feeding him, and it turns out she may have been like a time traveler or something. I don't know. I don't know. Some of Junji Ito's stories are just kind of bizarre. Like, they kind of feel nonsensical in a way, but kind of in a way that's also creepy. But this cover's really cool. That's his rendition of the Scream by Edvard Munch. Which, by the way, if you guys don't know, the Scream by Edvard Munch is actually about the eruption of Krakatoa back in, like, what was it, like 1904 or something, which was like one of the biggest volcanoes in the world that erupted, and was so massive that the sky turned red. So, yeah, a little art history for you. But, yeah, it's just okay. I'd probably actually put this underneath Smash all the way at the bottom. The art, you know, the art's great, as always, you know. Some cool stuff, you know. God, he draws tongue so weird. You know, pretty standard Junji Ito. This wasn't, I don't know, this one doesn't really hit like some of his other stories. But I would only kind of recommend it if you're a big fan or doing a video project like this. So yeah, that's my review of Fragments of Horror. See how there's sort of, kind of like an effect on... Oh yeah, there you go. Now you can see it. Pretty cool, huh? That's a cool cover. Anyway, next up, I don't know what's next because I ran out of books. I gotta go shopping. Next one will be a surprise. So this book... How do I talk about this book? Okay. This is No Longer Human by a writer by the name of Osamu Dazai. Dazai. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that name. And this is a manga adaptation by Junji Ito. This book is very disturbing. I wouldn't recommend this for people that are sensitive to a lot of things, but mostly sexual abuse and domestic violence. There's also drug use and alcohol in here, and addiction and mental illness. This is honestly, Junji Ito may be the master of like making spooky stuff come to life and the whole supernatural element. But I do believe that the most horrifying horror is the one that's based off of, you know, humans in real life. You know, it's kind of grounded in reality, and this is no exception. Now, I do have quite a few criticisms about this book, though. First of all, this book jacket, I think it's cool, but there's a hole in the middle.
This looks like a fucking chocolate chip cookie.
To get that cool effect. And it slides, check this out, slides off. Put that back on later. It's got this cool art on the cover. Check it out. How do you see it? You see it? Pretty cool stuff, right? Can I show that? Yeah, I could show that. So, pretty cool cover, right? Pretty cool cover, right? Pretty cool design. That book jacket, though, whenever I had it open and had it in my hands, felt like I was going to rip it. And I know some people say, like, oh, why don't you just take the book jacket off when you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I do things the way I do things. I cannot show you any of the inside of this because there is so much sex in this that it borders on not even pornographic, just straight up gratuity. Like, there is more sex in this book than in this book. And that's what this book is about. The manga is way better than the anime, by the way. You could actually see it. But the trash in my collection aside, this is probably what I would call your English teacher's favorite manga. Or, like, if you got a friend who's really into, like, Radiohead and My Bloody Valentine, this is their favorite manga. Because the prose, the way it's written, it is so fucking pretentious. I'm sorry, like, in the beginning I felt sort of sympathetic, not empathetic, for the protagonist, because in the beginning, in his early childhood, you kind of get the feel that, like, alright, he's just, like, doesn't really understand people, he has a hard time fitting in, and, you know, he kind of struggles socially, right? I could get that from the beginning, but over time he just makes a series of worse and worse decisions that make me think, like, wow, fuck this guy. Like, on one hand, I want to feel sorry for the guy for all the horrible shit he went through, but on the other hand, he kind of did it to himself in many ways. Now, when I say that, I'm not necessarily quote-unquote victim blaming, because this guy is a victim in many ways, but at the same time, you can only do the same thing over and over again and expect the same results for so long before you actually do go insane. This is about a man named Yozo Oba, and his life. It's just about the guy's life and the fucked up shit he goes through. Some of the way this is written sounds mad incel, bro, is what I would say. Mad incel, yes. It's what some of the dialogue and the writing feel like. I'm still trying to process this because I just finished it. The ending, there is a bit of a twist at the end. Just a friendly reminder that the writer's name is Osamu Dazai. That's very important detail when you go read this yourself if you want. I really wouldn't recommend this unless you're a big Junji Ito fan or a fan of Dazai already. I'll say Ito's artwork is exceptional in this. He absolutely killed it. That's probably the one saving grace of this manga. It feels really pretentious at times. That's the biggest problem with stuff like this. Like, if you like The Catcher in the Rye, you probably like this manga. So, I would give this book probably like a 5 out of 10, because at times, like, I found it interesting. More often than not, I found it kind of pretentious. You know, a little flowery with the way it's written. I don't know. I didn't really like it that much. Let's just put it that way. I think I could understand why somebody would like this, you know, if you like Radiohead. Or like, you know, your favorite book was The Catcher in the Rye or something like that. You know, if you like that really artsy, pretentious, like, look at the way he writes the words kind of books, you know what I mean? And I think that sort of literary fiction, you know, the kind of story that has like some kind of moral or something to it can be done well. And honestly, Junji Ito himself has done that well from the books I've read. Like, for example, Dissolving Classroom, right? You know, even though that was about like a creepy satanic family, what it really was about was this weird obsession with public apologies that the world's been interested in the last couple of years, right? This just felt a little like, whiny bitchy boy, you know, sort of like Catcher in the Rye. This is Japanese Holden Caulfield. That's what Yozo Oba is. It just really didn't do it for me, guys. I don't know, maybe I just need to like give it more time to like fester in my brainwaves. I will say this book may be very disturbing to some people, so just take that disclaimer at the beginning seriously. And there is a lot of sex in this, like, really. Gratuity isn't a good enough word to talk about that. Like, Jesus Christ. This guy was horny when he wrote this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to read it again, to be honest. But maybe I will. I don't know, one day. This is hard to describe. It's not like the other Junji Ito mangas I talked about. This one is just... It's too difficult to kind of put into words what exactly I thought about it. But pretentious is the one that comes to mind, unfortunately. I don't know. Did you guys read this one? Hey, look at that cool spine. I don't know if that's on the book jacket, but look at that. You got a Yozo all curled up there. That's kind of cool. Again, this cover's sick, though. It's sick. I like the book jacket, too. But just to wrap up my thoughts on this, I would only recommend it if you're a big fan of Junji Ito's work, or this novelist Osamu Dazai. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong again. But yeah, I'm going to rank this... I'm going to actually put this below Smashed. Because... well, Junji Ito didn't write it, so I can't really fault him for that. It's an adaptation, but yeah, I'm going to put this dead last just because this feels like really like hipstery, pretentious, like, oh, I got an English major, well, Japanese major, I guess. Like I said, your English teacher's favorite manga. Anyway, moving along, I got some more coming in the mail, so we'll just see that. Okay, so Venus in the Blind Spot. This is one of Junji Ito's short story collections. I'm thinking we pretty much have short story collections here on out. I'm going to have to do some digging on his deeper cuts as we go forward. But yeah, a couple of books I got left are all short stories collections. And then after that, I got to go digging deep. But Venus in the Blind Spot, this one is pretty recent. This was, I believe, only like 2 or 3 years ago. If I could get the publication date in here. 2020. Yeah, so this is only about 2 years old now. Which, damn, 2020 was 2 years ago, huh? Anyway, so, yeah, this is the short story collection by Junji Ito, of course, as the video implies. Alright, so in this one we got the short stories by Junji Ito, Billions Alone, Venus in the Blind Spot, The Licking Woman, Master Umezumi, the Enigma of Amigara Fault, The Sad Tale of the Principal Post, and Keepsake. Now, he also has some adaptations in here, which, The Human Chair by Edogawa Rampo, An Unearthly Love, also by Edogawa Rampo, and How Love Came to Professor Kurita, original story by Robert Hitchens. So he just kind of changed the setting and names to make it Japanese. So there are some repeats that I talked about in the past here, particularly the Enigma of Amigara Fault and The Sad Tale of the Principal Post were included as bonus stories in Gyo. Like I said earlier in this video, Amigara Fault was actually probably one of the few Junji Ito short stories that actually kind of made me go, whoa, yo, this shit creepy, bro. But just going over, I guess, story by story, Billions Alone was an interesting story about basically this hikikomori, or shut-in, that's what they call him over there, that this hikikomori that basically one day, a bunch of people start showing up sewn together, all dead and shit. And yeah, basically the guy is coaxed into trying to go to like a high school reunion or college reunion or some shit. I don't know. I don't really remember. But this one girl he probably had a crush on or whatever, and it's like, I don't know if it's a good idea. People are gathering together and they're showing up sewn together and all dead. Yeah, it was okay. I don't know. I didn't really like it that much. I thought it was kind of a weird idea. And not like in the weird, like, cool way, more in the weird, like, huh, kind of way. I don't know, the art was pretty good. A couple of these pages are actually in color. Actually, most of Billions Alone is actually in color, so that was kind of cool. The Human Chair, which by Edogawa Rampo, was about a guy that lives in a chair. I don't know. It was a little creepy, but it didn't really stick, you know? An Unearthly Love was about a guy that had an unearthly love. It was actually kind of weird, you know, sort of like that, ooh, what the fuck kind of weird. More like in the way that's like, ooh, this could actually happen in real life kind of way of creepy, you know what I mean? So, yeah, that was alright. I actually think I prefer Junji Ito's original stories over his adaptations, to be honest, especially after reading No Longer Human, otherwise known as the manga for incels. Venus in the Blind Spot, which was the title track, I guess you could call it, of this album of stories. Yeah, it was okay. You know, it was about a bunch of UFO-obsessed people, and, like, they had, like, this whole investigative group, and then a bunch of weird shit happens, and I don't know, I don't know. I don't know about that. The Licking Woman. Now, that one is probably my favorite story in this one, because, it really grossed me the fuck out, honestly. That's the only way to put it, because it was about this woman that went around and licked people, and shortly after they got licked, they fucking died. Now, I mentioned earlier that Junji Ito, his art style, the way that he draws tongues, is just so disgusting. He basically leaned into that strength of his, like, creepy-ass, gross, disgusting, disturbing, weird-looking tongues, and just kind of ran with it, and yeah, that one kind of creeped me out a little bit. Master Umez and Me was actually a biographical story from Junji Ito about how he was into this author Umez. I forgot the first name, but I believe it's the guy that wrote Drifting Classroom, which I haven't read, but I hear is an absolute horror manga classic. So I'm gonna have to go digging into that. It's mentioned on the back of like every Junji Ito book that like it's one of Junji's favorites, so I'll have to check that out someday. How Love Came to Professor Kurita was an adaptation of a Robert Hitchens story. I can't remember the actual title, but it was a white guy's name instead of a Japanese guy's name. It's about a guy who like was an asshole, and like this one chick's like, oh, but like he's so smart and handsome, and he's like, fuck you, I'm an asshole, and I don't know. She like haunts him. I don't like it. I did not like it. Sorry. Art was good. That's the one thing I gotta say about Junji Ito's mangas. The art is like on point in every single one. Like it's consistent quality. Like it's just as good as the last one. The only time I didn't really like his art was in the first chapter of Tomie, but that was literally the first thing he ever published. So you gotta cut him some slack on that. Other than that, his artwork is always phenomenal across the board. Like, you know an Ito when you see an Ito. The Enigma of Amigara Fault, I already talked about that, which was probably my favorite Junji Ito story. I would highly recommend that if you want to just give him a taste, you know. That story is very disturbing. It's still kind of lingering in the back of my mind. It's one of those stories that's just like, it's such like a weird novel concept, but like, I don't know, something about it just taps into like the like human psyche that just makes me go like, ugh. If I see a hole in like some kind of mountain one day, I'm gonna freak the fuck out. Sad Tale of the Principal Post, it's basically like a flash fiction story. I think I talked about it in the Gyo section of this video, but basically this guy gets stuck underneath the principal post of a new house and he dies there. Like it's literally 3 pages. I don't know, it's just whatever. And Keepsake, okay, we gotta talk about Keepsake. Oh boy, we gotta talk about Keepsake. So, this is set like, I want to say probably in what I think is the Edo period, you know, Demon Slayer times, that kind of turn of the century. Keepsake is about a guy whose dead wife gives birth, and they go get the baby out of the coffin, right? He raises said kid, even though he already married his mistress and had a child with her, and yeah, it's just one of those like creepy, like gross kind of stories. It's more like, it's not really necessarily about the horror element, like, oh, creepy corpse baby. It's more like, humans are fucking disgusting. That kind of thing, that kind of horror. I don't want to spoil the ending, but basically, this guy's kind of a piece of shit. I don't know, I don't really like those stories where the protagonist is kind of a scumbag and you're like hoping he fails in every page you turn. I don't know why some people like to write those kinds of stories. I'm more, on one hand, like, I could kind of understand the whole concept of an anti-hero, you know what I mean? People that do bad things for good reasons, but sometimes the stories of these protagonists that are just shitty people doing shitty things, like, I don't know, they just don't get me invested, you know what I mean? And, yeah, the protagonist of Keepsake was definitely a shitbag. Anyway, this is a pretty good collection, actually. Probably my favorite. Actually, out of all the story collections, I will give it bonus points for having my favorite short story in it by Junji Ito. That would be Amigara Fault, which was also in Gyo, but, you know, if you're going to pick up one short story collection by Junji Ito, I would recommend this one. I'm probably going to rank this, I'm not necessarily sure where I've put things so far, but I think I'm going to put this above Censor. I think I got Censor on the bottom, sort of towards the bottom. So I'm going to put this above Censor. And again, I'm probably going to review these rankings before this video ends. I might change them. I'm looking out over at the collection of books over there, and I'm thinking, actually, I'm going to, for now, put Tomie above Uzumaki. I know, you guys are probably going like, what? But Uzumaki's like the classic. That's like synonymous with Junji Ito. I'm like, nah, Tomie is a better story. Pretty cool book jacket. That's, I forget her name. We'll just call her Venus, even though she's not Venus. Look at this book jacket, eh? Pretty cool. Comes off. Pretty cool, cover here. That's the principal post, right? On the inside, we got these cool, like, grayscale images. That's from, what was it called? The first story, Billions Alone. Yeah, that story was a little bizarre. I gotta shave, man. I'm looking furrier than a political commentary channel. Damn. That's from oh, what the hell was it called? That was the Edogawa Rampo story. I forgot the name of the story, but that's from one of the Edogawa Rampo stories. And also, this is kind of cool. They have like a poster section in the front, just like some color illustrations from various Junji Ito stories. That's from Uzumaki, right? Which, by the way, that was my favorite chapter because it was so funny. Like that one random chapter where her hair starts curling out like that. Oh yeah, it bends out. Pretty cool. I wish I could kind of like peel these out and like frame them, because like some of these artworks are beautiful. That's from, not sure, can't remember. Some more Uzumaki stuff, right? Was that Uzumaki? Don't remember the story of this blue dude. Is that the Section Chan? I don't remember. Alright. Oh, that's from No Longer Human. The herbs and the painting. If you read it, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, there's some really cool stuff on the inside and the front there. I wish they had like a perforated edge so I can like take them out and put them on the wall where they belong. Because these are works of art. Junji Ito's art style is just really unique and just, how do I explain it? It triggers that part of my brain that likes fucked up shit and goes, that's fucking cool, man. Anyway, moving along, we got two more short story collections. These are hardcover. No book jacket, but we got Lovesickness, which I think is his most recent release in the West that's been translated. I think there's some old and new stories in here. And we also got Shiver. That's a cool cover, isn't it? Isn't that fucking cool? So yeah, both short story collections. Let's give them a read. Okay. So this video's taken so long, I've actually gotten a new camera. Let me know how this clip looks. If it doesn't look good to me, I'll probably just film the rest of it with my original camera. But I'm still learning this one. Hopefully it looks good. I don't know. We'll see. But this review is going to be filmed on this camera, and we just finished Shiver. So, Shiver is another short story collection by Junji Ito, of course, because this is the Junji Ito video. And this one is interesting because these stories were actually picked by Junji Ito himself. These are Ito's personal favorites that, looking back on his career, he thought, yeah, that was a good one. So, in this manga, the stories included are Used Record, Shiver, Fashion Model, Hanging Blimp, Marionette Mansion, Painter, which is actually a chapter from Tomie, The Long Dream, Honored Ancestors, and Greased. We'll talk about Greased in a minute.
But just going through this, there were some really good ones in here, and there were a couple that I was like, eh. So, Used Record is about a haunted record. That's it. I don't know. That's probably the weakest story in here. I don't know. I wouldn't have put that at the front if I was editing this, but, I thought it was okay. The art style actually in Used Record looks a little bit rougher compared to his other work. I'm thinking this is an earlier story. I mean, it's still beautifully drawn, like all of Ito's work, But compared to the rest of the stories, Used Record does look a little bit rougher. I don't know. That's just my ocular consumption of said media. But yeah, it was okay. Shiver is about like this cursed carving that makes holes appear in your body, and I know that one was just a little weird. It wasn't really scary and really like engaged me too much. It was just like, I don't know, man. This is just kind of a weird idea. Fashion Model is about a fashion model who is quite unattractive, or attractive by American standard. It was about this fashion model that was like creepy monster. Oh, she's got like fangs. I don't know. I thought that idea was like a little weak, but I don't know. I feel like the stories in the front are way weaker than the ones in the back, because Hanging Blimp is when it starts to get good, which is about these floating heads of yourself that go around and hang you by force. Yeah, some real freaky shit. I'll put some like overlays of that one here. But yeah, that was something. Marionette Mansion's about a family of puppeteers, that go around doing little puppet shows, and eventually this one guy just decides, like, hey, I'm going to have people puppeteer me. Ooh. Another interesting thing about this book in particular is that every story comes with a commentary and a few sketches from Junji Ito, and it's kind of interesting to see his thought process and the insights and like the early stages of the story too. So that's really cool. But yeah, in the puppet one, Marionette Mansion, there's like this little excerpt like, I spend so long hunched over a table. I wish I could just have somebody puppeteer me so I don't have to hurt my back all day. So I thought that was kind of funny, actually. Painter is a chapter from Tomie, probably one of the better chapters. See, the thing about Tomie is that story was kind of episodic, but at the same time, it sort of had a cohesive narrative. And yeah, that was probably one of the that was probably one of the more interesting ideas from Tomie, in my opinion. And that one was something else. Like, I'm still thinking about that book in particular. That's definitely going to stay number one moving forward. There was The Long Dream, which was really terrifying concept, actually. Really terrifying. So the whole concept of The Long Dream is that there's this guy who has this weird condition where whenever he goes to sleep, he's asleep for what seems like years, and every time he goes to sleep, the story just the amount of time spent in dream just extends in his mind, even though it's only been one night when he wakes up. It's pretty freaky. It's pretty freaky stuff. Just the concept of being stuck in a dream. I mean, it might be good if it's a good dream, but like, imagine getting stuck in a nightmare for 1,000 years. Terrifying. Honored Ancestors. It's about this girl that lost her memory, and there's this boyfriend, and then there's like caterpillars. I don't know. It's just I can't really talk about that one without spoiling it. Again, it was another one of those like more just on the weird side. It's not really scary. It's just like, oh, huh? Okay. That's just a weird idea. Greased. Oh, God. We got to talk about Greased. Greased is probably the best story in here because it's the one that actually got a physical reaction out of me. There's this one particular panel that I will spare you from that grossed me out so much that physically made me recoil. I'm just getting nauseous thinking about it. Okay. But there was one panel in particular. Oh, my God. Yeah, but other than that one panel, it's pretty freaky, scary stuff. Very spooky. It's about this family, and they have like I think it was yakiniku. I don't know. I don't really know Japanese food that much. I like it, but I haven't tried a lot of it. But yeah, they got like a yakiniku, or maybe it's yakitori shop, like in the. It's like one of those buildings where like there's a storefront on the bottom, and there's like apartments above it, and like usually when it's built like that, usually the family runs the shop in the bottom floor, and they live upstairs. But it's poorly ventilated, and the whole building is like really oily and greasy, and it's got like this grime in the air. And basically, the story is that just the daughter just really is grossed out by all the oil and shit, and how everything's all greasy and nasty and all that. And basically, Junji Ito built upon this whole like dilapidated, gross, oily environment and turned that into a nightmare. I'm not gonna spoil that one. That's definitely the one out of all of them. Like, that's definitely a good closing track, you know? There's also a little bonus story called Fashion Model Cursed Frame, which is just sort of another episode in this fashion model story that I mentioned before about the ugly model that's actually a monster. Overall, this is actually a really good collection. I would actually put this as my favorite short story collection. Yeah. Venus in the Blind Spot was actually quite a good one, but I think this one might be a better one insofar as his short story collections are concerned. But I still got another one to read. That would be Lovesickness. So we're going to cut and get back to that. So I just finished Lovesickness. Oh, I didn't just finish it. I finished it last night, but I only got to make the video now. And anyway, so Lovesickness. Yes, so this is not actually a short story collection. This is more like novellas, if I were to give a genre to this. So you guys know there's like, considering the length of a work in fiction, you could have like flash fiction, short stories, novellas, then novels, right? So like a novella is sort of like a longer short story. So instead of these like single chapter stories, there were 2 novellas and like, was it like 2 bonus stories in the back? So in this short story collection, as it says in the back, or just story collection, we have the novella, or the manga novella, I guess, Lovesickness. We got the Strange Hikizuri Siblings, which is another sort of short novella. Whatever, yeah, so that's sort of like the 2 main stories. Then we got 3 bonus short stories. We got The Mansion of Phantom Pain, The Rib Woman, and Memories of Real Poop, which is a pretty funny one. We'll get to that. But yeah, so the main story in this one is Lovesickness, right? Which is what this femboy right here is for. So Lovesickness is about a town that's really foggy, and there's this legend that if you ask for your fortune at a crossroad intersection, it's going to become true. So, main character moved out of that town. He used to live there when he was a kid, moved back because his dad's got work there, right? Turns out fortune telling stuff's still going on, right? And I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but basically he did something that he regretted when he was a kid, and that's why he never wanted to go back to the town. And then all of a sudden a bunch of weird stuff starts happening, and people start ending themselves. I'm sorry that I have to say these words instead of the actual word for self-deletion, because Junji Ito has a tendency to use that in affairs a lot in his writing. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm like burnt out on Junji Ito, because, well, self-deletion is something I think about quite a bit too, unfortunately. I guess that's just part of being a man in modern America. But anyway, I'm good, guys. Don't worry about it. Just sometimes I have some pretty bad days, but it's okay. It's okay. We'll be all right. You know? All right? Yeah, I noticed that Junji Ito likes to have a lot of self-deletion and affairs in his work. And so basically, this beautiful boy at the crossroads is what they call him. He basically goes around giving terrible fortunes, and it drives people to self-deletion. And basically, this kid that moved back here, who feels bad about what he did years ago, again, not going to spoil it, tries to stop him, tries to hunt him down. And, well, I am getting into spoiler content here, so I'm going to put a timestamp if you want to hear the dissection of the following chapters of this collection. But
if you're okay with spoilers, just stick around right now. So basically at the end is the main character becomes the beautiful boy at the crossroads in white, right? Because he's wearing black clothing, right? They keep talking about how like beautiful this boy is in his black clothing. But this other guy, this main character, he becomes the boy in white who goes around and gives good fortune, right? And eventually that forces all the fog to clear, and it changes the way people perceive this cursed town, right? Now, I think there's actually something to be said about this one. Now, I'm not really trying to be like one of those like, oh, there's got to be a deeper literary meaning, but I feel like Junji Ito does have a tendency to gravitate towards sort of a, you know, this subtle subtext of like a bit of a message in some of his work, or like a bit of a commentary. But I think that's really about like being like trying to do some good things in a dark world. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's lots of pieces of shit out there, but you know, at least try to do some good. You know, even if it's just telling somebody like, hey, you look nice today, you know? I think that's what it was really about. But I could be wrong, you know, but that's sort of how I analyze this story. At least if there is some sort of literary subtext to this. I enjoyed it. The art style in this one in particular, I feel like he used a lot of lines. Like, it's very line heavy. I'm sure I'll show you in the B-roll that I'm going to overlay on this part. But yeah, very line heavy, especially in the foggy town scene. All I'm saying, I'm looking at that, I'm like, damn, he must have had carpal tunnel for months after this one. But yeah, that's sort of the main story of Lovesickness. And the other story is about a messed up family called the Hikizuris, right? So the strange Hikizuri siblings. It's sort of like a dark comedy almost, because sometimes Junji Ito sort of has a tendency to put a little bit of like, you know, black humor. I don't know why they call it black humor, or off-color comedy, or, you know, irreverent jokes, you know, but like not like sort of in the way like Americans do, more like in like, this is really messed up, but it's also kind of funny. Think like if you guys ever watched Dexter, right? You know that TV show about the serial killer that's also a cop. You know how you watch that show, it's like really dark, but also kind of funny. You know, that's sort of what I was getting from the Hikizuri siblings story. I don't know, I can't really go into too many details because it just seems sort of like these like two disjointed episodes that really had nothing to do with each other. But yeah, it's just about like a messed up family doing messed up things. Not much to say. The Mansion of Phantom Pain. That one was a little creepy. That one probably is the standout in this whole book. Yes, even the whole Lovesickness main story. So basically, there's this mansion, rich family, kid has pain, okay? But the pain exists outside of his body, and it's inside this mansion. Guy goes to work there, and his job is to go around and like just rub the pain out of spots. So the kid will be like, oh, the window on the second floor hurts, and then they go run there and they like massage the spot to relieve the pain, right? Weird concept, but the more I think about it, the more bizarre it becomes. It's sort of one of those things that like, I sort of like the Amagara fault thing where like, you know, it's just something about the concept that really just kind of got under my skin. Imagine having pain outside of your body. Think about that for a little bit. You know? It's freaky. But eventually this, the workers and everybody in there all die because the pain is just too much to bear for everybody, because they're all working themselves to death because the boy's pain keeps getting worse. Maybe it was a metaphor for like their black company culture over in Japan, you know, if you've ever heard of that. We got that in America too. Oh, we certainly do, you know, Amazon. But, you know, that's kind of what I think maybe there was a bit of a metaphor in there for, but maybe it was just sort of to freak you out with the whole idea of the concept of pain existing outside of your body. I don't know, that was pretty cool. Alright, there's also The Rib Woman, which is about a, oh boy, it's about a girl that feels, you know, what's the word, dysmorphic, you know, where you look in the mirror and you hate what you see, no matter what you do, and she eventually gets a surgery to remove ribs because she says her waist isn't, you know, curving enough, curvaceous, whatever, feminine, whatever. And yeah, it turns out there's a woman with ribs, and I don't want to spoil that one. I can't really talk about that one without spoiling it, and it's probably that one and Phantom Pain are probably the best stories in this book, which is surprising because it's neither of the novellas. Lovesickness was pretty good, but yeah, that's just sort of like ladies got ribs, then there's a doctor and there's more ribs. I don't know. It was a little. I don't know. I don't think that was one of his strongest, but some of the imagery in that one was freaky, man. Like that scene, if you guys read it, you know that scene where she's like, and then the stuff. Oh man. But yeah, that was pretty good. Memories of Real Poop is sort of like a flash fiction, I believe autobiographical one, because I don't think I'm pretty sure it's told entirely in the first person. It's never really shown that it's like Junji Ito as a kid, or you know, he never introduces himself, but I'm assuming it's autobiographical, and it's more of a funny story. It's about when he was young, he saw some like fake poop for sale at one of the stalls at the festival, and he was talking about how realistic it looked. It was just a cute little flash fiction sort of short. Well, not really fiction, is it? If it's autobiographical, just cute little story, you know, a little bonus. You know, I liked it. It was a nice little light-hearted ending to such a heavy book. Anyway, as you guys can see, we are almost done here. We just gotta do Deserter and his adaptation of Frankenstein, and I have this weird cat book in the mail. But for now, we're gonna get into Deserter, Frankenstein, and then the Cat Diary. Yes, hello. John has returned for the next segment. I bet you missed me, didn't you? Even though I was just on screen 5 seconds ago. Anyway, so I just finished Deserter. Deserter. Man, I'm never gonna get used to manga. I still open the book from the back all the time. Anyway, Deserter is a short story collection. Yet another short story collection. The stories included are Biohouse, Face Thief, Where the Sandman Lives, The Devil's Logic, The Long Hair in the Attic, Scripted Love, The Reanimator's Sword, A Father's Love, Unendurable Labyrinth, Village of the Siren, Bullied, and Deserter. So those are the stories that are in this collection. So as I've been going through these short stories, just as usual, I will sort of review them one by one. I will say though, the first I want to say 6 or 7 stories in here, the artwork kind of lacks a bit of that Ito polish. I'm thinking these are older stories because I could see it being a little bit similar to the way that the first chapter of Tomie looked, where it looks a little rough around the edges, you know, not that crazy heavy hatching that Ito's been known for in these later days in his career. But yeah, you know, it's still solid artwork. It still gets the job done, you know. I don't think you have to be like Miura good to be a comic book artist, but like, you know, as long as you can sequentially lay out the images to deliver the story, I think it's fine. But I'm glad he got better. Because especially Biohouse, the first story, that one is really rough around the edges. Like, there are a few panels and I'm like, ooh. But yeah, let's get into it. So Biohouse is about a guy that likes to eat weird food. And there's like vampires or something. I don't know. That one was kind of dumb. I'm gonna be honest, I did not like that one at all. Sorry about that. Just it didn't do it for me. Face Thief was actually a really interesting concept. I feel like Ito is just a lot better at concept over content, meaning that the ideas he comes up with are really out there and like really make you go like, whoa, that's a crazy and wild idea. I like that, man. That's creepy. But like in terms of like the actual content of the story being told, I'm like, sometimes it sort of just ends and sometimes it goes off in weird directions that I'm like, I don't know if I would have written it like that, you know. But then again, you know, it's just the guy's imagination. That's how he writes. But yeah, Face Thief was about a girl that can steal people's faces just by being near them after long periods of time. And I think that concept has a very high potential. I just don't think the execution was quite there. You know, like I'm saying, he's more concept over content. Where the Sandman Lives is about a guy that's afraid to go to sleep because the dream version of himself is trying to come out into the real world. It was alright. You know, it's again, like most of these like earlier stories, because I could tell they're earlier because of the art style, it was a bit rougher, you know. I just kind of went through them real quick. Yeah, The Devil's Logic, I actually don't remember. I don't remember that story at all. Oh yeah, that was the one. It was about like a spirit that convinced people to end themselves. Again, with the self-deletion, common theme in Junji Ito's writing. Hope you're doing okay, Ito-sensei. You know? Long Hair in the Attic, that was a really interesting one. That was about a girl that her boyfriend dumps her, and she decides to cut her hair because he convinced her to grow it out, and then the hair gets a mind of its own. And yeah, crazy shit happens. Alright. Scripted Love was about an actor that, let's see, it was about an actor, like a small-time theater actor, not like a movie actor, that dates, like, the new girls because, you know, he's like a charismatic, douchey kind of guy, you know, real lady killer type, you know. Do people still say lady killer? Am I showing my age? Do I sound like I was born in 1952? Fucking lady killer. But yeah, basically, when he breaks up with these girls, he gives them a tape, be like, I'll always be with you, for some reason. And I don't know, that one was just... I felt like that story just... It didn't get going until the end, and when it finally started going, it just died, you know? I don't know. The Reanimator Sword I really didn't like at all. It was about a guy that could bring back people from the dead by stabbing them with the Reanimator Sword. Didn't really do it for me. The art was really rough. I don't know. I think this is... So far, I think this might be his weakest story collection, but I think this is mostly earlier work, so it's somewhat forgivable. Father's Love is... that was actually a really good one. I like that one. It's probably the standout. How do I describe the details without spoiling it? Let's see. Father has abilities to control his children. Horror ensues. Yeah, that's about it. But that was probably the best one in this book. Unendurable Labyrinth is... Yeah, that's the one. That's actually on the cover, by the way. Let's see. These girls go hiking in the woods, find some monks, and then they get lost in a temple, and it's creepy. You guys tell I'm actually kind of burnt out on Junji Ito, but luckily we don't have too much left to go. There's a couple stories. Village of the Sirens, about a town that's cursed by the siren, you know, like an air horn kind of thing that goes off like at duskfall or whatever, you know, goes woo, that kind of siren. Man, this project is driving me insane. I think I need to take a break from Junji Ito for a while, but yeah, it was alright. You know, Bullied is about a girl that feels bad about having bullied somebody when she was young. And it's pretty creepy and kind of gets a little uncomfortable towards the end. And the last one, the title track of this album. It's weird that the artwork on it is for Unendurable Labyrinth, but the book is called Deserter. It's about a guy that deserted the Japanese military in World War II, and the family's hiding them, and the family just... Eventually the war ends, and the family fucks with him for years. And that's about it. But it's got a bit of a twist ending. Yeah, I don't know. I think this might actually be the weakest short story collection. I can't really think of anything that stands out too much. A lot of the artwork in it is really rough around the edges. I'm thinking it's mostly earlier work. You know, it really looks like the style of the first couple chapters of Tomie. The first chapter. Or the short Tomie, I guess you could call it. It was okay. I would only really recommend this if you're a collector. This came out, I think, last year. At least the English localization, I suppose. Yeah, 2021. Right at the end of last year. It was okay, you know. I feel like when Junji Ito doesn't kill it, it just ends up being pretty good still. You know, it's like okay. I'm probably going to put this actually below Fragments of Horror, because Fragments of Horror has Dissection Chan, and I like that story. But yeah, we don't have too much left to go, guys. Pretty much got all the books we need. We got 2 more. We got Frankenstein, which I already showed. We're going to go ahead and give that a read, see if that's like a straight adaptation or if Ito put his own spin on it. I think there's some other short stories in here as well. And this one looks interesting. This is a comedy, I believe, or a bit of a dark comedy. This is a collector's edition too. Ooh. You know, I thought it was annoying that No Longer Human was had a shorter trim size, but this one is like way bigger. So like it really just like pops out of the shelf in my little stand of Ito over here. I think I'm gonna read this one first, then I'm gonna end it with Frankenstein, and then I guess overall I'll give a quick review of everything in about 1 sentence and a final ranking, and you guys could like and subscribe because this video has taken a lot of time and money. So yeah, go ahead and do that. You know what, just do that right now. Go ahead and smash that like and hit subscribe, okay? Anyway, let's read about some fucking cats and shit. Alright, so I finished Junji Ito's Cat Diary, Yan and Moo, which are the names of the cats. I love this book, man. This was really just cute little funny story, honestly. This was really a bit of a departure for the guy that draws people off in themselves and so many affairs and all that. This was a nice little change of pace. Yeah, it's just about his everyday life with, you know, his cats. It's a bit of an autobiography. You know, there's a lot of stuff in here where it's like, oh my god, it's a monster, but it's actually just a cat. Yeah, there's not really much to say. This was just a fun ride. I would actually recommend this if maybe you just like Junji Ito's art, but you're not a big horror fan. You know? Honestly, it's just a cute little story. I would recommend this to anybody. You know, even if you don't like cats. I don't like cats. I'm super allergic. But I do like cats because every girl I've ever liked has had a cat. So, yes, cats are awesome. But, yeah, I am so allergic to cats. I'm more of a bird guy. I like birds. Birds are cool. But I don't have a pet bird because birds are supposed to fly, man. Ooh, poetic. Yeah, I like this back, though. It's kind of like blueprint look. Yeah, it's just, this is the collector's edition, which I don't know if there's like a standard edition that's a bit smaller, but yeah, the pages are nice. You know, there's a little bit of color in the middle here. There's like some photos of the actual cats. Unfortunately, which cat passed away? Was it Yan? Yeah, Yan. Fortunately, Yan passed away. My heart goes out to you, Ito-sensei. You know, I know it's hard losing a family member. You know, everybody eventually is going to lose somebody, you know, and, you know, rest in peace, but you know, he immortalized him in manga, right? And you know what? This is great. 10 out of 10. I'm gonna put this, and this is sort of in its category of all of its own because we've been reading tons of horror stories, and this is just sort of like a bit of a slice of life through a horror lens, is what I would call this. Oh man, this is kind of tough comparing to all the other books because it's not horror. I'm gonna put this. I'm going to put it right above Remina in terms of enjoyment, right? Alright, that's where I'm going to rank it. So, that one's done. Now it's time for the finale. One, Frankenstein. This also includes some short stories, so let's see the adaptation, let's read the short stories, let's review it, and let's finish this goddamn video. Frankenstein. Alright, let's go. Final review in this video. This project has taken several months and a lot of money. Please like, comment, and subscribe. This is Junji Ito's adaptation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I actually haven't read the original novel before picking this up, so I kind of had an idea of what the story was, but, you know, I thought it would be better. To be perfectly honest, I didn't really... It was okay. I mean, Junji Ito's art is Junji Ito's art. It's beautiful, it's well done, you know, it's masterfully crafted, everything is in proportion, everything is detailed, any kind of creatures always look gruesome. Ito's art is just really unique, and that's probably the best part about his manga, other than the unique ideas and his original stories. I don't think Junji Ito's an adaptation guy, because I really did not like No Longer Human, or the couple adaptations in, was it Venus in the Blind Spot, the couple short stories he did. I thought, you know, he's more of an original story kind of guy. I don't really like his adaptations too much. But this was, you know, basically his story is this guy, Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein, that's his name. That's not the name of the monster. Creates artificial life out of pieces of corpses, and then he goes mad for a little bit, comes back, looks like the monster's missing, re-encounters said monster, and the monster convinces him to build him a female companion because of his grotesque nature and people's just sudden urge to attack monsters. Yeah, I mean, like, it was alright. I don't necessarily know why it's considered such a classic, but yeah, it was okay. It's okay story. It's not amazing. There's also a really good other, I guess novella, but episodic series about this character named Oshikiri, which was probably the better half of this book in my opinion. Just, I like Junji Ito's ideas more than like his adaptations. He's got a really unique conception of his stories. So basically, Oshikiri is this guy that discovers that his creepy house, he lives in a big house, is actually a portal to an alternate dimension. Sort of Junji Ito's take on the whole interdimensional beings, that kind of thing. And it's really freaky, and it, like, there's this whole chapter about people's necks growing really long, and like these weird footsteps he keeps hearing. Turns out those are the people coming in through the portal. It's kind of hard to explain. I think you should just read it. It's good. It's good. I think that is worth this book alone. I think the Frankenstein half is still pretty good. Just, I think I like his original stories better. Where am I going to rank this? Let me look over here. Just because of Oshikiri being such a interesting concept, I'm going to put it right above Lovesickness. And that is my final ranking of every Junji Ito manga available to me in the West at the time of recording this. I know there's some other stories out there, some stuff that hasn't been translated or is out of print or hasn't been released yet, but I think that is gonna be the end of this video. Alright, I still think Tomie is actually his masterpiece, and Uzumaki is his other masterpiece. But Tomie is probably my favorite one out of all the Ito manga I've read. Out of all of them, the one I dislike the most is probably Fragments of Horror, just because none of the stories in there really resonated with me too much. Or No Longer Human, because that just read like an incel forum post. Yeah, this has been a ridiculously long project, and I got a metric fuck ton of editing to do, but before we do that, let's just briefly review every single one of these in one sentence. Okay, Junji Ito books reviewed in one sentence. Let's go. Manga for incels. Bioweapons bad. When things start getting weird, leave the damn town. Domestic violence bad. Be a Sigma male. Don't be a deserter. I mean, basically. Don't play God. Sometimes your fetish could end up in your death. Tongues are creepy, man. Giant tongues are creepy, man. Junji's got some weird fucking dreams. Never eat in front of somebody. Cats are monsters, man. Never watch an apology video ever. I still don't fucking know about this one. Here we go, let's, well, first let's move 2B out of the way here. Let's, go over the spines real quick. So, I just think this might be kind of neat to just do a little spine review. You see that sculpture? You can watch me make that in a video over here. But, let me move this guy out of the way. Yeah, I thought it might be interesting to go over the spines, just review the design. Alright, so I really like what they did with Gyo, Uzumaki, and Tomie. I guess these are his 3 biggest hits. I don't know about Gyo. I thought Gyo was just okay, to be honest. But yeah, I really like what they did there. They just took a page from the manga, a couple of pieces of art, sort of mashed them together, and just sort of lowered the opacity on that to make it sort of gray on the white, right? And they did the little red symbols right there. That's pretty cool. No Longer Humans, okay, I guess. I mean, it's really plain, kind of boring. You know, looks like your English teacher's favorite manga, so I guess it's fitting. Okay, this is kind of cool what they did here with the short story collections, though. They all have this, like, little band on it, the Junji Ito story collection. What's kind of annoying is that, let me zoom in. Look at this. They say story collection, right? Right up until right up until Shiver. It says selected stories, which makes sense because Junji Ito picked these himself, plural, what? Junji Ito picked these himself. But I still think that just ruins the uniformity. Not to mention, if we come over here to Fragments of Horror and Venus in the Blind Spot, these are totally different. Those are also short story collections. Why are these totally different? Remina looks cool. I really like that, you know, but I don't know, I just like things that are red. I don't know, just kind of catches my attention. We should talk about go back here to the short story collections and talk about the spines. I think it's cool that they got a little illustration there. Like we got the boy in black in the fog for Lovesickness. We got a bunch of heads there for Deserter. I think that's for the story where they get lost in the catacombs, right? We got the head of the Bride of Frankenstein here. That's kind of cool. I like that. It's creepy. We got the bats from Blood-Sucking Darkness here, right? Then we got the hanging balloons from Shiver, which was probably one of the best stories in that collection. So I think that's cool that they did that. I mean, they kind of did that over here with No Longer Human. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a neat little thing they did with the story collections. However, the Venus in the Blind Spot, that's just sort of a part of the book jacket. It's just like a big eye with what was her name? The girl from the title story. I can't remember her name. I guess it wasn't that significant, but this was a pretty good collection. Over here, Fragments of Horror. We kind of got that little chunk of that image, right? The recreation of Edvard Munch's Scream. Right, so that's kind of neat that he did it in his own style. It was cool. Censor, it's got a cool book jacket, right? It's got a unique material that's kind of got this like gold embossed look, but the book jacket is just a little bit bigger than the actual book. It gets like shitty on the edges, so that irritates me a bit, but I think it was kind of cool. They got like the hairs all over there. Dissolving Classroom, I mean, it's basically just like a big spread of the cover, and this is just sort of a piece on the corner, right? You got the blackboard there. That's pretty cool. I really like this one still. This one's still it's one of my favorites. And Cat Diary. I'm not sure if there's a different version of this, but I got like the collector's edition. Yeah, see? But this is pretty basic. This is kind of lame, honestly. I think you could have did a little bit more on the spine there, but you know what? This was a fun story. I like that one. Anyway, that's spine review. Anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it for this one. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to die from editing this. I'll see you next time. Bye. Oh, would you look at that? Turns out there's an anime. Huh.